Well, you can always tell when the U.S. and Israel are getting ready to launch another war because the online propaganda gets turned up to 11. This week, we learned that Israel is paying U.S. influencers, content creators, around $7,000 per online post, promoting Israel, slamming Qatar, the normal talking points. Benjamin Netanyahu met this past week with a group of these influencers to give them some marching orders. Watch.
Christian influencers, okay. You said, we talked about the woke right, and you said, I call it the woke Reich. That's a brilliant observation. The woke Reich, because these people, they're not any different from the woke left. I mean, they're insane. They're loonies. But
so he went on to talk all about how we need our influencers. We're losing basically the war for our minds. We're losing the information war, and we need our influencers. All of you sitting around this table, we need you. Go back.
He literally said, now we have TikTok. This deal's going through, and we have it. That's anti-Semitic to say that the Jews own any media. So you've been busted, Benjamin Netanyahu, for saying something anti-Semitic, that we own the media.
Benjamin Netanyahu is an anti-Semite. We've called them out. But anyway, all these influencers who are sitting around this table were just sitting there like, yeah, we really, thank you. We're getting our marching orders. So go back to your respective areas and start posting information. Well, his message worked because shortly after that meeting, we started getting these types of cringy video posts from influencers. Watch.
Hey guys, wow, I am feeling good about the news out of DC today. I love seeing Bibi and Trump together and their camaraderie. I think it just makes me really happy. And I'm happy to see them on great terms after the drama with Qatar, which, by the way, I never understood. Can you imagine if the U.S. went into Pakistan to kill Osama bin Laden and the Western world was mad about that?
Yeah, so Qatar, of course, is a key piece of this, right? We have a new influencer list, by the way. Let's put this up on the screen. This is the FARA registration list that shows that Israel paid $900,000 for U.S. influencers from July through December 2025. This is a list of identified pro-Israeli influencers who attended the Israel influencer events between August and September, and the Israel 365 trip to Israel. This is and also Bill Ackman's Hampton retreat and Netanyahu's influencer event.
Notice we said through December 2025. So we're not done getting this, you guys. The assignments are still out. We're still going to be the recipients of that kind of content.
Can we put that back up on the screen, though? Because you'll see, I think at the very top, you'll see, are those the two individuals in this next video? Or Emily Saves America? Yeah, anyway, you'll see Xavier Derasi and another individual there. And this video, this one is the cringiest one you're going to see, but, just take a look. We'll play just a few seconds of it. I have to turn it off pretty quickly because it's so painful to watch. Watch.
Imagine supporting people who start wars just to lose the wars so they can cry about it and then try it all again.
You must see anti-Semites are literally obsessed with Jews. Now walk with me. While you must see anti-Semites.
I can't.
So they go on about how you don't like Jews because you're so jealous of them because they're so successful, which again is a racist generalization. But that's the assignment, right, is to push down at people who push back at Israel at all. Well, Glenn Greenwald has been covering this propaganda for decades, and he's here to break it down. So, Glenn, as a Jewish person, would you like to let us know how this hits you? Do you feel vindicated with this propaganda about how awesome Jews are?
First of all, I have to register my objection to I've been covering this for decades because it makes me sound like I'm 85. Let's say 2 decades and we can settle on that. Gives me just enough expertise without making me super old. If you had played that video to the end, I absolutely do not blame you for not doing it. I watched it once and probably couldn't endure it again. Part of what you're seeing there is this kind of very transparent, brazen attempt to commandeer Gen Z identity politics and jargon and online discourse to be almost playful in generating support for Israel. So you have that black gay person there who's overplaying the black gay, mannerisms to be some kind of like Gen Z influencer to make Israel seem like hip and almost, edgy and the like. But the more offensive aspect of it is the script, which couldn't really be designed to generate anti-Semitism more acutely if that were the goal. It goes on to say, and I think you pointed this out, that basically saying the only reason you dislike Jews is not because the state of Israel is engaging in a genocide and controlling American politics and commandeering all of its resources. The reason you hate Jews is because we're so successful and so powerful and so rich that you're just jealous of our money and power. And that basically is out of Mein Kampf. I don't, understand why that's considered to be a pro-Israel or pro-Jewish message.
Well, you bring up a great point, which is about the messaging. And so many of these influencer campaigns, they come with talking points. They're given really like a one sheet with bullet points of like what we want you to say. Put it, say it in your own words. But we want to definitely hit on. It seems I'm going to ask you this question, but it seems like we want you to hit on Qatar. We want you to talk about anti-Semitism. It seems like a couple of talking points. We know from this reporting that it's $7,000 per post, but do we have any idea what the actual bullet points or talking points that Israel wants these influencers to espouse?
Yeah, there's been a term for coordinated Israeli propaganda for a long time, which is Hasbara, and that's what this is. Israel probably is the most sophisticated state for disseminating and coordinating propaganda of any in the world. The United States is pretty good. China is pretty good. But I think the Israelis have demonstrated the greatest adeptness. I've seen here in Brazil, for example, where I've lived and I've been involved in politics and journalism for a long time, I've seen very hardcore left-wing politicians who are gay or who are black or who are pro-Palestinian in line with standard left-wing politics, go on one of these sponsored trips to Israel. They get put through a very specific type of propaganda. So if you're black, you meet black Israelis. If you're gay, they take you to gay bars in Tel Aviv. And they all come back, suddenly espousing the glories of Zionism. And I think the best way to understand what the script is you look at the largest pro-Israel outlets, kind of the arms of the Israeli state, like the Free Press. And yeah, one of the primary points is to say, oh, you don't have to worry about foreign influence from Israel. The real source of foreign influence that's insidious and shaping the minds of your children is actually coming from Qatar. And, what I always say about that is when the United States Congress starts making daily pilgrimages to Doha or sending billions of dollars every year to Qatar or going to war for Qatar or expelling students for protesting against the Qatari leaders, that's when I'll start to believe that Qatar is the real source of foreign influence. But that is part of the coordinated messaging.
Or they'll shut down the giant U.S. military base in Doha, Qatar, right? Or President Trump will suddenly decide, and his whole family will suddenly decide to not go forward with the multi-billion-dollar golf course resort that they've been planning, that the Trump family has been planning for a long time. So suddenly if that pulls back and they close the military base in Doha, yeah, maybe you'd be onto something there.
Well, you've heard us talk about the transformative results that people see after using Genucel. Well, here's a real story from Sandra from Virginia. She says, this is a true story. After 5 days of using Genucel products, my husband said, you look young. Whatever you're doing is working. Yes, it sounds like a fake commercial, but that's really what happened. He didn't know I had bought the Genucel products. I like the texture. Products are easy to use and working fine on my very sensitive skin. I've tried many expensive products and this one works. Well, now it's your turn to see results just like that with Genucel's end of season summer sale. There's only a few days left to get it. It includes the Genucel Complete Skincare Package at 70% off with the dark spot corrector, plus the Genucel bags and puffiness treatments. This is the best skincare in the world, and you are getting it risk-free. Go to Genucel.com/redacted and start looking years, maybe even decades younger tomorrow. All orders are upgraded to free shipping when you use our link. So again, that's Genucel.com/redacted. Genucel.com/redacted. See results in day one. You'll get compliments everywhere you go, guaranteed, or your money back. Genucel.com/redacted. The thing is, Xavier DeRusso has been on Redacted, and I appreciated some of his comments on Black Lives Matter. He was with PragerU. I didn't understand that connection at the time to Zionist agenda. And so then I feel like this was a really long game, is sort of infiltrate conservative movements with people who are not speaking about Israel. And then this popularity gives them the window to promote Zionism. And gosh, this is decades in the making, this kind of garden, right?
It's insidious.
Well, yeah. I mean, when, after Charlie Kirk was murdered, one of the reasons why there was so much focus on the tension that he had between himself and Turning Point funders was precisely to illustrate exactly this dynamic, namely that, people understood very early on that Charlie Kirk was this kind of singularly charismatic figure. He was able to unite people. He was going to have a lot of influence. I know people who the first time they met him walked away saying, he's going to be a senator or the head of the RNC or the president of the United States. And when you see somebody like that and they start to grow and they're very well financed and they operate this organization that has immense influence, obviously there's a war over what kinds of positions they're going to take on issues that power centers care most about. And a huge amount of funding, a huge amount of donors that went into making Turning Point USA what it became were extremely pro-Israel. And as Charlie Kirk recognized that the generation he represents, and all polls show this, became increasingly not just skeptical of Israel, but negative toward it. He understood that he needed to be a lot more open on this issue. That's when he started hosting debates, gathering, Dave Smith at his Turning Point conference, letting Tucker Carlson go on and on about how Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad agent. And there were actually, not just Jewish billionaires threatening to withdraw funding, but actually withdrawing funding. So that's what they do is they infiltrate every single movement to try and make sure that covertly or otherwise, it ends up being pro-Israel, even if on the surface, the organization has nothing to do with Israel.
Now, the comments on these videos have been horrible. And the ratio is that most people hate it and see right through it. And they have tons of views, which means it's being promoted, but very few likes and terrible comments, which tells me that it's not working. Now, something that I wasn't able to put my finger on until you had Nick Fuentes on your show just a few days ago is what is the alternative to this, loving message? And he said it beautifully. It's apathy. It's like, we don't care. We're not going to even watch this. Don't care about Israel. Just turn the other way. Focus on, keep your eyes on your own paper type thing. And what that so clearly says to me is follow my lead and don't care about this. Don't watch it. Don't think about it. Have no opinion about Israel, and then they can carry on. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think, one of the reasons why I had Nick on my show is because I think he's one of the most astute observers of how, especially the American right, functions and how Israel tries to keep it captive to this pro-Israel agenda, even though they've rebranded as America first, and we're supposed to put the United States first and not foreign governments, and certainly not Israel. And this is something that you see principally from people like Matt Walsh, who obviously works for Ben Shapiro, so that tells you all you need to know about Matt Walsh and what he's up to. But one of the things that is so important is, people understand that that young Americans are done with Israel. They're not going to become pro-Israel again. They're not going to cheer for Israel. They're not going to punish politicians who criticize Israel or who want to question funding to Israel. And so the second best tactic is to say, you know what, Israel has nothing to do with us. Let's just wash our hands of it. Let's not think about it. Let's not talk about it. Let's only focus on what's best for our country. And while that may be an appealing message sort of in the vacuum, like in and of itself, like, yeah, let's focus on our own country and not Israel. What that really does is it tries to distract attention away from the fact that our government and our country, both parties, are paying immense attention to Israel, financing Israel, arming Israel, isolating ourselves from the rest of the world to protect Israel, going to war for Israel, censoring our own speech in the United States to protect Israel. And so while this kind of like, hey, let's have apathy and ignore this issue seems appealing on the surface, what it's really doing is basically insisting that everybody who wants to make the United States a vassal state of Israel be permitted to do so without any further scrutiny.
Right.
No, it's a great point.
It's ridiculous.
But it's a brilliant move, though, because now you're going to hear and pay it. I just want our audience to pay more attention to it from conservative commentators and so forth who purport to be America first. And you're going to hear a lot more of them saying this, which is, it's over there. The Palestinian, Israeli, it's over there. I'm focused on America. Our southern borders are being overrun. Yeah, our entire government is shut down, but we still managed to shovel billions of dollars to Israel. So, yeah, you're America first. Sure you are. Glenn, we'll get you out of here on this. I'm curious. It seems like we're seeing a lot of similarities right now to the run up to the first portion of this phase one, I guess you will, of the Israel-United States war against Iran, a few months ago. Do you see any similarities, what we're seeing right now, to what we saw back then before the next phase two begins?
Absolutely. I would be shocked if there wasn't another attack certainly one carried out by the Israelis, but obviously with the approval of the United States, coordinated with the United States, if not involving direct United States participation again, on Iran within the next few months, if not the next few weeks. All of the messaging makes that clear. The Israelis have been saying that while the U.S. was had a great success in bombing those facilities, that the know-how and even the material to build a nuclear weapon continues to exist, that the Iranians continue to pursue it. And once you start disseminating that rhetoric, the only logical conclusion based on what you did the first time is to say we have to actually initiate a military conflict in order to do it. I just want to quickly add, though, that one of the things that was blocked out by the Israeli censors and the media censors in Israel was the fact that Israel sustained a great amount of damage from Iranian ballistic missiles. And they got to the point where they had to end the war, both the United States and the Israelis did, because they were running short on the stockpiles that intercept missiles, ballistic missiles. The United States was using it. The Israelis were using it that it gets from the United States. And so the idea was they had to stop the war with the intention of restarting it only once they could resupply those interceptors. And there's about 20 to 25% of the world's supply of missile interceptors now stationed in Israel precisely to protect it from the consequences of its own aggression.
So this break, not only, it served a purpose. It was a reload.
It was a recess on purpose.
But for the Iranians as well, they're rebuilding they understand that better than anybody, and they're rebuilding their ballistic missile capabilities and other capabilities as well. And I think if there is an outbreak, you're going to see a lot of damage done again to Israel.
The great Glenn Greenwald, you can follow him on System Update over on Rumble, fellow Rumbler as well, one of the greatest journalists to ever live. And we're always proud to have Glenn here on the show. And he hasn't been doing this for decades. Thank you so much, guys. He's been doing this for like 3 years.
Just 2. Yeah, like 4 years, 5 years. I'm like a half decade older than you guys. No more than that.
He's a cub
Great
reporter.
seeing you.